So, today I want to show off a simple yet powerful little system that's been asked for a few times now. It's going to be a collection manager and handler. Now, you may remember one of my very first videos was literally this system. I decided, due to terrible audio and a larger audience, that I would go back and recreate this collectible handler, kind of 2.0 version that's actually a lot stronger and a lot better to just kind of understand. Now, this will be completely separate from the course that we've been working on, so you can easily use this in any project you want and kind of expand upon it and do really what you want with it. Now, if you'd like to make suggestions, talk, ask for help, or just hang out, come down to the Discord using the link in the description below. Seriously, you'll be able to just ask for something and I can usually figure out a way to make a video on it or just help you there and then. Now, let's actually just kind of move into this and start designing, because there is actually quite a bit of code to go into this. Now, I said this is simple, and it is conceptually very simple, but there is a bit of bulk coding that we've got to do to just kind of get the ground or get the foundations laid and then actually allow us to expand upon it. So one of the first things we're going to do here, you'll see that I've already got this little scene set up. This is very, very simple. It's a very, very simple movement controller with little HUD elements up here and just a little area to walk around on. It's nothing too major. This is stuff that you can literally do as soon as you load up Godot. Godot has a built-in movement handler and things like that that you can just use, or at least movement code connected to the character bodies. So yes, that's all this is right now. Now, the first thing we actually really need to do here is actually start designing some auto loads. Specifically, we want to create one specific script for auto loads or auto loading, and this is going to be the collectible signal bus, and that's what we'll call it, the collectible signal bus. Now, if you've watched many of my videos before, you'll know that I like signal buses and basically using global signals to kind of share data around without coupling things. Now, this is similar in concept. This is more designed specifically for the collectible related signals, so you can kind of have them grouped and not have a massive signal bus script. So we have now created our collectible signal bus. Let's go and open it. Delete all of the code inside other than the extends. Go to project, project settings, auto load, click the little folder icon, go to auto loads again, find the collectible signal bus file, click open, and then click add. So with that now added, we can start actually calling this in other scripts, but we need to actually give some things for this to call first. And we're going to be kind of planning out a lot of different signals for this. The very first one is going to be pretty simple. This one is going to fire the second a collectible of any kind is collected. So this is just going to be called signal, and then we'll call it collected. We're going to give it some parameters. We're going to give it a resource, or we're going to give it a parameter named resource, and it's going to be of type resource. Yes, we're going to be using resources in this to really help the expandability. Resources are an extremely useful system, or just they're just really, really useful. They're really simple to use, and you can just create so much with them so quickly. So we're going to use or have a signal. It's going to be called collected, and it's going to be for resource. Now let's go and create the function for this signal really quickly as well. So we'll create func emit underscore on underscore collected. Now we'll pass in that resource of type resource again, give it a void return type, and on the inside of this function, the only code that needs to be ran is collected.emit, and then inside the emit parentheses, you just want to pass through resource. Now we're going to be creating a lot of functions and signals this way, and a lot more just in general. So to get one of the very, very quick foundations out of the way, we're going to want to create the resource real quick. So to do this, what we're going to do is go down to scenes folder, or wherever you want to kind of store these. I'm going to store them in my scenes folder. I'm going to create a new folder, and it's just going to be called resources. There we go, I can spell. And then inside of this resource, I'm going to create a new script. Now, this script is going to be inherit, where it says inherits. I'm going to leave this as node so we can get some kind of autocorrect when we actually type this out within the script. So we're just going to call this the base collectible resource. Now we can go and open that, and then where it says extends here, we can just change that to resource. We can empty out the script as well because we're not going to need anything inside of it. And we do need to give it a class name. So this is how you create custom resources. You need to make sure it extends resource, and then you have to give it a class name for it to be considered a custom resource. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to call this the base collectible resource. I always spell collectible wrong. I have no idea how to spell collectible. I'm going to need to like sticky note the word collectible and a few other words just to keep them in my mind, I think. But with an extending resource and a class name of base collectible resource, it means we can now create resources from this. But for resources to function, they actually need some variables that will be kind of contained within them. And the very first thing that we're going to do, because this is going to be handling your health, mana, and coins, basically. Now, you can add as many tags to this as you want. This is kind of what we're creating now as a tag system. Now, health, well, we can, it'll be like foods, health potions, pretty much anything that does health-related things. Mana will be the same thing, anything that does mana-related things. And currency can be coins of all kinds, regardless of values. And that's kind of why I like doing it this way. So export enum, so actually get this kind of selectable tagging system going. Now we need to pass in the tags we want. So the first one will be health. The second one will be the mana. And the third one will be currency. Make sure to wrap all of them within your double quotes. And then after this, we just write var tag. We can use a lowercase t, var tag. And then I'm going to set this equal to NaN. You can do NaN, you could do null. It doesn't really matter what you put the set tag as. It could just be empty. So this is one way of doing it. We're just going to leave it as an empty like an actual empty string. Now, the next thing we want that all of our collectible resources will have is a value. So how much they're going to increment something by. So we'll go export var value. And this will be of type int, and we'll set it equal to 0. And then I'm going to want one more thing, because this is going to handle the kind of automation of how we want to design our collectibles. And this is just going to be for setting textures. So I'm going to go var, export var, I'm going to call this a texture. I'm going to set the type to texture 2D and set it equal to null. Now I'm going to hit Control S and save. And now what we can do is if we go back to our resource folder here, we can right click on the folder and then hit create new resource. Now, if we just type in base collectible resource, you'll see that it pops up here for us. Now I can double click on this. I'm going to call this, let's call this the mana. Now we'll start with health. Health makes more sense. Health underscore resource. Actually, let's do this in what I would do if I'm actually creating a game. I would call this the health potion, and then I would open some little brackets here or parentheses here, and then I would put in a uppercase S. That way I know that this is the health potion small. So we'll hit save. Now it's created this health potion small.tres or resource. If we double click on that and we look at the inspector, you can see now that we have this tagging system that's currently empty. It has a value and a texture. Now a very quick thing you could do with resources is if you click on the resource that we just created, you hit Control D, you'll duplicate a file. So what we can now do is rename this from health potion small to mana potion small, hit duplicate, and then we can do the same thing one more time, and we can just change this to coin small, or coin parentheses S, like so. Now, good news is, the changes we make to this won't be reflected across all of them. These are now their own separate, unique things. That's just a really quick way of, you skip a couple of clicks, having to go and click new resource, and then find the resource, and then, do all of that. You can just duplicate, rename, done. So with these done now, we just have to set them up. We'll start with the coin. We're going to go to the tag that we just created. This is a currency type. We're going to set the value to 2 for now, just to make sure it gets shown very easily. And we'll change the texture. And this is a very fun thing you can do, is you can hit the empty here, and then you can just hit quick load and it'll give you all of the textures. Or you can just click load and then go and find the texture yourself within the tile pack that you want to use. I am using the Kenny Pixel Platformer art pack. A link to that is also in the description. So, if you want to, test this, make sure to do that. Now I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to find the coin. And I'm going to hit Control S and save. So this now has the tag, the value, and the texture we want to use. Let's do the same thing for the health potion. Tag this as health. We'll give it a value of 5. The values don't actually matter. You can put whatever value you want in. I'm just doing these for, show off testing. And the texture, I'm going to go down to load, not scenes, load, assets, tiles. Scroll down to this full heart here. And then hit Control S and save. That's our health potion. And finally, the mana potion. Mana will do value of 7. And we'll change the texture to... It's a little diamond in here. All right, there you go. Little diamond I want to use. So that's our resources created. These resources will now contain all of the data that's actually used for these specific pickups, right? Now, these are set things. So in this case, take the coin, for example. This is a set thing. This will increment something by 2 now when we need to use the value. Whereas, say, the health potion and mana potion, what if we want a regenerative potion or like a regeneration potion, right? Instead of it going your health plus equal 2, it goes your health plus equal 2 over a period of 3 seconds. Well, that's going to basically require you creating a new base collectible resource, or basically you making an inherited script from this base collectible resource and then kind of adding in what you need to and then creating a resource from that. And you can kind of use inheritance in that way to create these really, really complex resources that you can use for kind of any type of pickup, upgrade, pretty much anything you want to. You can even do a collectible system for weapons in a video game if you really want to. Say you have a sword on the floor that you want to pick up. Well, that sword has a sword resource that you have given all of the data, the textures, the animations, everything to. And then your character walks over that, say with an area, it registers it, picks it up, puts it in its inventory, and then you can use it like so. That way you're kind of passing a lot of data around through one signal usually, and that's because of resources. So with that in mind, let's go back to our collectible signal manager here, or our collectible signal bus that we created, and start adding all of these new signals. First thing we can do here is change the resource word, or the resource type that we're setting these variables to actually be the base collectible resource. So what I'm going to do is I'm hit Control D whilst I'm highlighting over the resource itself, or the word itself. And I'm going to press that twice to highlight both. And I'm just going to write base collectible resource to do both lines at once. So that's our collected signal. The next signal I want is going to be what I like to call specified signals. So this is a generalized signal. This is a signal that is general to any collectible being picked up. That's what fires. And now the specified signal is, okay, some other system has decided that this collectible is a health related collectible. Okay, let's now fire the health underscore collected signal. And that's kind of how we're going to be creating these signals. So we'll do health collected. We'll give this the same parameters as the previous base collectible resource, or resource as base collectible resource. Now we can just really simply Control C, copy that line, paste it in 2 more times. Now health collected on line 2, or the next line down, will be mana collected. And the final one we'll do currency collected. So we now have these 3 new signals. I'm going to be kind of going through this a little bit quicker. Please take some time, rewind the video if you need to, if I'm going a bit too fast. This can be a lot of code and it can be a little bit hard to keep up with sometimes. So with that in mind, what we're going to now do is we're going to go to the first signal we created, the health collected signal. We're going to copy the actual signal itself, make some new lines, create a new function, write in the words emit underscore, and then use Control V to paste in the signal we created. That way we're creating a new function for this. We'll give a void return type, And inside, all we have to do here is call the health collected signal, use .emit, and inside the parentheses, paste in the resource, or copy in the resource. And this is going to be the same function for the next two signals. So let's copy that function. Let's create a new function for it. Instead of health collected, we can do the same thing we did before with the control D. Instead, what you want to do is you highlight the specific word you want to change. Then you just use control D once, and it will go down to the next line and change it for you. So for this, we want the mana collected signal. And finally, we want one more for the currency collected signal. So same thing, paste it in, use control D to highlight the word, use control D to highlight both words, and then change this to currency. So now we have 4 signals already created for us. We need 3 more. So the first one, as I said, I'm going to go over this a few times. The first one handles any collectible being collected. The second that gets collected, that signal fires passing the resource off to, let's say, a collectible manager. Then the collectible manager will go through the tag system and go, okay, what type of item is this? It will make a decision based off of that tag, and then it will fire one of these signals depending on the tag that gets fired, or tag that is read. And then finally, we're going to need 3 more signals to update the health, mana, and currency for our UI. So let's go and create those 3 new signals. So it'll be signal, and we'll call this on_update_health. What are we going to want to update for our health? Well, I like to, when I'm designing this is a bit of customizability that you can do yourself. When I'm designing this, I like to go, okay, I like the player to know what their current health is and their max health is, what their current mana and max mana is. So what I will do here is for the on update health, and this is specifically for the UI stuff, I will go value. So this is going to be the quote unquote minimum value or the current health value. And then I will basically pass in a second parameter here, and this will be for the max underscore value. And then I can basically copy this signal, paste it in, and then instead of on update health, I can do on update mana, and one more time on update currency. And for currency, they don't need to have a max value, so I can just remove that parameter. And we now have the 3 new signals. So moving on, we want to now create the functions for those signals. I'm going to do this slowly compared to the first time, so you can really kind of hammer it in. We'll write func, and then we'll do emit underscore on underscore update underscore health, parentheses, value as an int, and then also pass through the max underscore value, also as an int. Then we give it a void return type because it doesn't need to return anything. And we emit that on update health signal. So dot emit, inside the parentheses, we just go value and max value. And now we go and create the next 2 signals for this. So let's go do this again. Func emit underscore on underscore update underscore mana. And then we pass through the value of type int and the max underscore value of type int, void return type, and we just fire that signal with dot emit and pass through value and max value. And finally, we can do the currency signal. So I'm going to do this the fast way now, where I copy it, go func emit underscore paste, void return type, and then we can just paste in on update currency, dot emit, and then pass through the value. So this is every single signal we are going to need for this system. Now, if you want to say add like on weapon collected or weapon collected in general as a specific type of like signal here, you can basically add it to here. Now, what I would do for my own readability is I will highlight all of this, right click, create a code region, and then I would call this item type signals. That way I have this region here that tells me that this specific region is designed to contain all of the signals for the types of items I have. So I can just now go and put a new signal in here for weapon collected, and that will pass through and do different things depending on what the signal needs, right? This can be, if we highlight this, we can right click on this code region. This can be UI update signals. I can't spell the word signals. There we go. So that's UI update signals. And this is the base collected signal. We don't need to create a code region for that one. So kind of doing this allows us to, once again, look at the regions individually and decide, okay, if we want to add a new item, we can put it up here so we can actually keep track of it. And if we want to update a new UI element, we can also put that in here and start kind of keep track of our signals a lot better. So let's hit Control S and save. With our collectible signal bus out of the way, we now actually want to go and create the thing that's going to be receiving a lot of these signals. So I'm going to hit the Add New Scene icon button up here. I'm going to add a other node type, and this will be of type node. So this will be the white circle. I'm going to call this the collectible manager. Going to hit Control S and save. I'm going to go and save this inside of the managers folder that I created. And we'll add a script to it as well. Now I'm going to add a class name to this. Technically speaking, you don't need to, but sometimes class names can be useful down the line, and I like to kind of pre-plan a little bit. So in this case, I will add a class name to it because some things may interact with the collectible manager in the future. So what do we want to do in here? Well, we just want to go and connect to one of those signals that we created. And that signal we want to connect to, let's call the collectible signal bus dot, and we want to connect to the collected signal. So collected dot connect, and we want to pass through the on underscore collectible underscore collected. And that's our new function. So let's go and create that function. Write in pass for now. It's going to need parameters. If you remember what parameters we gave it, those are the ones it's going to need. So it's going to need the resource of type base collectible resource. And now we need to decide what we want to do from this. And for a very, I won't say very small, but for a smaller system of say 100 items, match can be extremely useful. Or 100 item types. I should say that specifically. 100 item tags. So you could have 400 different types of health items. As long as the tag system doesn't grow way too big, matching or just using match functionality can actually be okay. So in this case, match functionality for 3 tags, with the 4th being, hey, there is no specified tag, this is a problem. So your error tag, basically. Having just those will be fine for now, and going up to around 100 tags should also be okay. It shouldn't cause any problems. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to go match resource dot tag, and then put our colon after that. So this is just going to specifically grab the tag or the string text. Now we want to open up our double quotes, and we want to first put in health. Health is the first tag that we have, and we want that. I'm going to write inside of this, we now want to kind of fire the health related signal, right? It's like, okay, this is under the health tag. What do we want to do? Well, we want to fire that health related signal from the signal bus. So that will be the collectible signal bus dot emit underscore health collected, and then we just pass through that resource again. And you'll kind of realize that the collectible manager is like an intermediary stage. It starts to, like, it will connect all of the, like, everything that gets collected will come to this, and this will go, okay, I'm going to send you off to your specified places. Having a system like this allows you to make really large changes in a very short and very small script. What do I mean by that? Well, what if you want to add 300 more items and they're all of the weapon tag? Well, now you can just add one tag, and it will decide where to send that based off of that. Say you have a health and mana option, well, you'd do a health and mana tag and send that off. Or you would do both. You could actually create a double tagging system, so you could have 2 tags and it would send it to both of those and it would do both at the same time. So Collectible Manager will be small to start with, might grow quite large. It's extremely useful as just that intermediary stage. So that's our health sorted. Let's now go and add our mana tag. In here, we'll want to do the same thing. Collectible signal bus dot emit mana collected, and then pass through the resource. And finally, or third, but not finally, we want the currency tag we created. And we want to use collectible signal bus dot emit. Why am I doing that? There you go. Emit currency collected and pass through resource. Now, I said third but not least, and that is because I like to make sure I have an empty kind of statement here, an empty case. This is if the tag is empty, i.e. I forgot to assign it, I want this to actually print something out for me. I want this to just print out error. We'll put a colon there, and then I like to do this. Then I'll go no tags specified. And then I will do a few more dashes. So this will very quickly pop out to me inside of the output here. And I will see this and I'll be like, okay, I know the immediate issue. And that'll allow me to fix things kind of as we go. So let's hit Control S and save. Go to the main scene. If you don't have a manager container in your main scene, I suggest creating one. And then we'll go Control Shift A to add. We'll add the collectible manager in there now. So we have our signal bus and the collectible manager ready. We've also created our resources, so we have the 3 basic resources that we actually want. That means we can actually now go and design the actual collectible itself. So I'm going to close the collectible manager scene, open up a new scene. This is going to be of other node, and I'm just going to make this an area 2D for now. And I'm going to say this very quickly, or at least very broadly. You can create a collectible of any kind. In the course that I've been doing, collectibles are rigid bodies. They then have an area connected to them that runs its own script to check if something has collided with it, and if it has, it will do something based off of that. Or on the other side of that, you can just have a check on the player. You can have an area connected to the player that checks what the item is, or at least checks if it's a collectible item, and then will queue free it and send off the signal, like so. But in this case, we're going to do this with just an area 2D because I don't need any physics interactions with my collectibles or any movement or anything like that. So with that in mind, let's rename this to the base collectible. Let's go to the 2D view. And let's think about what this needs. Well, it's an area 2D and it's giving us a lovely little warning saying that this needs a collision shape. So that one's kind of obvious, right? It needs a collision shape. This is now saying that it still needs a collision shape. So let's actually give it the shape itself. We'll do a little circle. And finally, the last thing that our resources have specifically is, of course, a texture. So let's go and give this a sprite because we want to automate the sprite selection on this. Now, if I zoom in, you'll see there is nothing here, just a blue circle. That is fine. Let's save this. We'll save this under the collectibles folder that I've created. We'll add a new script for base collectible and then we'll hit create. Now, I'm going to give this a class name of base collectible. And you're probably wondering why things have the word base in front of it. And that is because in this instance, the base collectible, I know there are going to be a lot more collectibles to come from this. And what you would do, as I said before, is just create an inherited script from that or an inherited scene from that and kind of implement more things to it as you go using inheritance. You do the same thing with the resources, and you can do the same thing with the collectibles here. So that allows you to specify what you're checking for a little bit more and add a lot more kind of expandability. So in this, let's kind of design this out. What do we need? Well, I've already said this. We need access to the resource that we've created. So we need to do an export var for collectible resource, it will be of type base collectible resource, and we'll set it equal to null. And then finally, we're going to want an onReady variable for the sprite2d that we created. I'm going to typecast it as sprite2d so the engine definitely knows. And I'm going to hit Control S and save. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not just preloading a specific resource. And that is because of two reasons. One, I want to be able to just select what resource I wanted to use on the fly. And two, say you're doing a drop related system. Instead of having to specify what the kind of creature can drop too much, you can add a randomization feature to this, which I might show in a different video. We'll see. But yes, doing an export also allows you to move these resources to any folder you want and then not break things. That's the other reason why exported variables can be so useful in this sense. So what are we going to want here? Well, we're going to want to check the area entered signal, because area2ds have an area entered signal, and it will just check to see if another area has kind of crossed paths with it, and if it has, it will do something based off of what that area is. So we'll use area entered dot connect inside the ready function. We'll connect this to the on underscore area underscore entered function that we now need to go and create at the bottom of our script. It takes specifically the area of type area2d parameters. And it says that in the node signals. You can see that here. So area of type area2d, void return type, because it doesn't need to return anything. And now we get to kind of do things based off of this. So what I'm going to want to do here is I'm going to check. This is just the pure interactive side of things. This is, okay, something has collided with me. So I'm going to want to check if the area that it's collided with, so area dot owner, i.e. I want to check if this is the player. So I need to grab the area's owner, and the area in this case will be another area2d attached to the player. So we need the owner of that. Once again, that is the player. So we need the area dot owner dot is underscore in group. And then we can just pass through the player group. Now, this is very specific. And I say this because if I highlight this and I hit Control C, which we're going to want to do anyway, and then I go to the player inside of my main scene, I open that scene up. So I open the scene for the player. I go to the node and groups. There we go. You'll see it's not in any group, which means if it's not in any group, the collectible won't know that it's actually collided with it at all. So we need to make sure that the player is within the player group. So with that done, let's go back to the base collectible and start kind of messing around with it a bit more. We can cap that off with our colon and actually move into what we want it to do. So if the area.owner is in group, so if it's in the player, or if it is the player, what do we want it to do? Well, we want it to grab that collectibles for the, the signal bus signal that we created for the collected signal. And then we want to use dot emit and pass through that collectible resource that we currently have as the export variable. And then we want to do something really simple and just do a Q3. And the other thing that I'm going to do here is a bit of a catch. You don't really need to do this. This is just something I like doing. I'm going to write another error statement here. Just error. 1, 2, 3, 4. No area found. And that doesn't technically make sense, because if this is like, hey, an enemy passes it, it will print this out. That's kind of okay, just for testing purposes. Make sure to not do this or remove this, or kind of do whatever you want with it if that gets on your nerves at all. So we can remove the process, by the way. We don't actually need that. We have the ability for this to now interact with things. The next step, of course, is actually grabbing the collectible resource and using its texture to set the texture of the actual collectible itself, kind of on the fly, right? So we don't ever have to actually set it ourselves. To do that, we need to create a new function. So we write func. This will just be called set underscore texture. It doesn't need any parameters or any return type, so we can just do void return type. And we're going to grab the sprite2d dot texture, and we're just going to set that equal to the collectible resource dot texture. So now if the collectible resource that we've attached to this is, say, the coin, go to the inspector, it will now give it this specific texture. Same for the health potion and the mana potion. So we now have texture automation just sorted and done just with those little 2 lines of code. Now we need to make sure, there's a thing that I always forget, make sure to call this inside of your ready function. That way it actually gets fired. I had invisible items a little while ago. It was very confusing for a little while. But with the base collectible done, let's go to the main scene, go to 2D. And in the entity container, I'm going to hit Control Shift A, and I'm going to add the base collectible. I'm going to put one here, Control D to duplicate, one here, Control D to duplicate, and I'll put one in the middle as well. Now, you'll see here that these are empty, they have nothing, they don't even have a collectible resource. So we're going to add these now inside of the entity container itself. So I'm going to go click, I'm going to click quick load, so it'll pop up with our resource, and this is going to be the coin. Second one that I want to do will be the health potion, and the third one I want to do will be the mana potion. Now, this isn't handling a drop system or anything along those lines, so I know I have another video on that, or it's part of the course. It's one of the two. Course is free, by the way. Every time I say the word course, I don't want to freak anybody out. It's free. It's on the channel. You can look through it. I know I have a video based on the dropping of items and things like that. You can basically combine those two together, or that and this together to create a proper drop system. Yes, with that done, let's hit play and see what happens. Well, our items are now here, and if we walk over them, nothing is currently happening, but the texture is set correctly and the items do exist. So to fix the fact that they're not doing anything, or they're not actually finding the player, we need to do 2 things. One, we need to go to the collision on the base collectible itself, and we need to set the layer and mask up. Layer and mask is what it actually looks for to collide with, and what layer it is on to be collided with. So layer is where it is located, and mask is what it's looking for. So we want it to be on layer 2 and looking for layer 2. And that's it, as simple as that. On layer 2, looking for layer 2. Because the collectible is looking for the collision itself, not the player pickup area, basically. And speaking of the player pickup area, let's go and create a player pickup area real quick. So we'll click new scene. This will be of type area 2D. We'll call this the player pickup area. Actually, let's not even create a new scene. Let's just do this the really simple way. And this is me just forgetting things. We'll go open up the player. I'm already on the player. That's how much I'm forgetting that we're even already on the player. I'm going to hit Control A. I'm going to add an area 2D. I'm going to hit Control A again, add a collision shape to it. Give it a circle collision shape, and then I'm going to do the simple thing of making the player. The player's already in the group, so we can go to the area, we can click area 2D, go to collision, and we can just make this look for layer 2 or be on layer 1. It doesn't actually need to look for anything, so layer 2 and mask nothing. Now I hit play, and you'll see that we are now deleting or collecting our collectibles. And of course, when they get collected, the signal gets fired, the manager picks up that signal, and that's actually as far as it goes. That's because nothing is actually listening to it yet. So let's do the kind of simple one first. This is going to be a placeholder scene. And I say this is going to be a placeholder, and that is because usually when I'm doing things like handling health, currency, or mana, I have their own unique handlers for that. But if I actually start designing all of that, we'll be here for an hour or 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new 2D scene. And this is just going to be called the player stat handler. This is just going to be a little container to contain the health, mana, and coins for the player. I'm going to hit Control S and save. Go to the handlers, save it there. Give it a new script for the player stat handler. Give it a class underscore name player stat handler. As I said, with all of the signals firing, you don't need a player stat handler. You can use a health handler, a mana handler, a currency handler. You can use individual systems for this that you can expand upon a lot better. This is just a kind of catch-all for it. Really quick, kind of quick and dirty catch-all at that. So what do we need? Well, we are going to need a exported variable for the max underscore health. Will be of type int, and we'll set it equal to 0. We'll need an exported variable for the max underscore mana. Be of type int, set that equal to 0. Now we're going to need 3 normal variables. One for the current underscore health of type int equals 0. One for the current mana of type int equals 0. And finally, one for the current underscore coins of type int equals 0, not of type L, of type int equals 0. And with those created, we need access to the ready function. So this catch-all, as I called it, this is basically just going to be firing and collecting certain signals and then incrementing these values based off of what they receive and then sending off other signals specifically for the UI. So what we're going to do is start connecting these signals. The first signal we want to connect in the Collectible signal bus is the .health collected signal. And we will use .connect. We'll pass through on underscore health underscore connected. We'll go and create the function for on health collected. Remember that it needs the parameters of resource of type base collectible resource, not base collectible. There we go. Cap that off, and now we can actually go into what we want to do with this, right? So on health collected, we know it's a health potion. We know it has a health related value. What do we want to do? Well, we want to take our current health and then use plus equals the resource dot value. That's it. That is our health handled. The next thing we want to do is actually update the UI. Now, there is no scripts attached to the UI yet, so we're going to have to do that as well. And I want to show you how to do that. But for that to happen, we also need to fire the collectible signal bus dot emit health collected signal. And that takes 2 parameters. Sorry, not the health signal health collected. We want on update health signal. There we go. That takes 2 parameters of a current health and a max health. So we can put in the current health and then the max health. So that's one signal done. Let's move into the next one, which is going to be the collectible signal bus dot mana collected dot connect on underscore mana underscore collected. I used on health connected there, didn't I? I did. Let's rename that real quick using our fancy new ability to highlight and hit Control D. Collected. There we go. Now on mana connect or collected, we can copy the start of the signal here. Sorry, we can copy the parentheses. I do need to slow down a bit. Wow. Type in a function. There we go. On mana collected, we want to pass through the resource of type base collectible resource, void return type, and inside we want to do actually the exact same thing. We want to grab the current mana and use plus equals the resource dot value. And we want to fire that signal for emit underscore on update mana, pass through the current mana, current coins, current mana, and the maximum mana. Now, the next signal we want to collect, of course, will be the coins one, right? We want to keep track of how many coins we have. So collectible signal bus dot currency collected dot connect on underscore currency underscore collected. Go create the functionality for that. Needs a resource of type base collectible resource, void return type. and current coins collected, or current coins, plus equals resource dot value. And finally, we fire the final signal, which is the collectible signal bus dot emit underscore on update currency. And we just pass through the current coins. So we now have health and mana being incremented and coins being stored, and we have the connections to fire off to the UI. The final thing we really want to do inside this script is make sure that the maximum health and mana gets set immediately, because you don't want to have like no max, right? You want your UI to be updated as soon as the player enters the game. And to do that, we can just do the really simple thing of just firing those signals again. So we can come down to the on health collected signal we fire here for emit on health update, current health, max health. Copy that and fire it. Same with the mana, copy that and paste it inside the ready function. And finally with the coins as well, and paste that in the ready function and hit Control S and save. So that is now the player health, or the player stat handler set up and sorted. We are nearly at the very end of this. The last thing we need to do is connect these final 3 signals to their correct elements. So we'll start with the health UI here. You'll see that the health UI is a really simple UI node with a HBox container and 2 labels. Label 1 is just this little word that's HP and colon. Label 2 is where we actually want our values. Note that I said values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a health, or a script to the health UI. I'm going to create an onReady variable for label 2. I'm going to call this the health label. And know how to spell the word health. There we go. So onReady variable for the health label, and we will set this to the label type. There you go. As label, my brain stopped working there for a second. We need to connect to that collectible signal bus dot on health update, on update health. We need to connect to this signal and make sure it's connected, and go to update underscore health underscore UI, because that's what we're doing. We're updating the UI. We'll copy that. It will copy what's inside the parentheses, create a new function for it, give it a void return type, and remember that it takes 2 values of type int, a min or current. So we'll do current underscore health of type int, and then we'll do the max underscore health of type int. Kept it off with a colon, and we can now move into setting up the text. The text is actually really simple. We can just call the health label, and we can go health label dot text, and we can set that equal to str, so string conversion, and we want to convert the current health into a string. And we can use some kind of interesting like concatenation here. We can use plus, open some double quotes, slash, plus str, open the parentheses, and pass in the max health. So what this is going to do is give us a number out of the maximum health value. So maximum health is 10. This will give us a like 0 out of 10 kind of look. And that's really nice. I kind of like that look. And that will replace the 4 zeros we have here. So I'm going to hit Control S and save. I'm going to hit play. And you'll see nothing updates, and it doesn't update because the player stat handler is not on the player stat, or on the player. So let's very quickly go to the player, add the player stat handler, hit Control S and save, and hit play. And it's still not going to update because I need to change the maximum health to 10 and the maximum mana to 10. There we go. Now our health is updating. It's now saying 0 out of 10, which is great. I can now go and walk into the health, and it will give me 5 health back because the resource for this says the value is 5. Let's go and finalize this. Connect the mana. So I'm going to rename this label to mana label. We'll give this a script for the mana UI. Pull in the onReady again as type label. Don't need process. Do need to connect to the signal. So collectible manager or collectible signal bus dot on update mana dot connect, and then we can do on underscore update or on mana underscore update underscore UI. I have really weirdly named that, so I'm going to change that to just mana or update mana UI. There you go. Update underscore mana underscore UI. There we go. My brain is, my voice is finally back to functioning better. So my brain is hyper right now. So for the function, we'll do the normal thing. Update mana UI, pass in the current underscore mana of type int, the max underscore mana of type int, give it a void return type, and do the literal exact same as we did in the health UI, to the point where we can actually just copy this if we want to, but we're not going to. We want to learn by doing rather than copying. So we are going to grab the mana label, use dot text, and set that equal to str current mana plus, open our quotes, slash plus str max mana. Hit Control S and save. And we can now finally do the same thing to the coin UI. So I'm going to go give a script to that. And under the coin UI, we once again want that signal connected. Dot update currency dot connect update underscore currency underscore UI. Create the function for it. This only has one value, so we can just use the word value of type int. Give it a void return type. And finally, this one's the really simple one. We need the, we'll call this the coin label. There we go. We need the onReady variable as type label. And we need the, we just need to call the coin label and then just use dot text and set that equal to the str of value. There you go. So string conversion value. Control S and save. Hit play. And yeah, we should now be able to walk over the health, give 5, mana should give 7, and the coin should give 2. And that's it. We are completely done. Now, there are a lot of ways to expand upon this. You can add many more items with the tag system. You can create as many resources as you want to with as many different values. You can add to the resources and create inherited scripts from them and really just kind of expand upon it as much as you want to. Now, I know this has also been asked for. I am going to zip up this entire project. I'm going to throw it inside of a server or a channel inside of a Discord, and you should be able to go there and download that if I do it correctly. So that way you'll be able to look over it and study it yourselves, and the files will just be available. That's the whole thing, just fully available to you. And I'm going to hit restart and go and test this one more time, and it does work. Okay, yeah. It's always a good idea to check twice, because sometimes something breaks on the second try. But that is literally it for the day. That's all I can show you for this video. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something. As said, come down to the Discord if you need the files or you want to chat or you want to ask questions. Please, I love talking to you guys. Yeah, I will see you in the next video. Have a great day, a great game dev journey. Bye.